I have given my heart and soul to my husband for 20 years. One day, when I return home, I find signed divorce papers. I swiftly reach out to him, and he answers with a frosty tone.
I'm moving out of the house. Make sure to sign the divorce papers, okay?
What? This is too sudden. At least tell me the reason.
Fine, I will tell you. My girlfriend is pregnant. You are no longer needed.
Girlfriend? Pregnant? What are you talking about?
I won't pay a cent for alimony. There's no proof of my infidelity anyway.
I'm bursting with rage at this point. I've dedicated myself entirely to him, managing the household, caring for our child, and tending to his mom for 2 decades. Yet, he wants to end it with a single phone call for such a selfish reason. You just wait and see. I immediately suppress my anger. Oh, I see. Fine. Let's get a divorce.
Oh, really?
In the following month, he goes into a frenzy, bombarding me with calls. I'm Martha, a 46-year-old nurse. I've taken pride in working since I was younger. My husband's name is Tony. He's 2 years older than me and works in a telecom company. We met through our mutual friend. His dependable and manly attitude grabbed my heart back then. We started going out, and eventually, he popped the question. I was thrilled to be engaged to him. His father had passed away during his university, so his mother lived alone. I heard that she was from an affluent family, and she carried an air of sophistication. Oh, what a lovely girl! I'm so glad to have you as my family. She gave me a gentle smile. I was happy to have such a charming mother-in-law. After we got married and moved in together, I discovered that he had no intention of sharing household chores. He left his laundry lying around, didn't take out the trash, and never bothered to clean up after eating. Since we were both working, I asked him several times to help out, but all he ever said was,
Housework is a wife's responsibility. Don't try to make me do it.
Back then, society was a little more conservative compared to today, and there was still a belief that housework was a wife's duty, and men should be put on a pedestal. So I obediently followed this idea. Not long after we got married, I became pregnant. While Tony was happy about it, he still didn't lift a finger to help me at home. If I couldn't do it due to morning sickness, he would even become visibly upset.
Geez, are we having takeout again today?
Sorry, but I'm feeling sick again. I've been in bed all day.
Such a lazy wife.
He could have made something by himself. I wished he would show some consideration for me. Despite my thoughts, I apologized. I believed that taking care of my husband's needs was a wife's duty, and I did my best to be attentive to him. Even after our daughter Sarah was born, he remained the same. He played with her only when she was in a good mood, and avoided diaper changes or making formula. No matter how many times I told him we would share parenting, he just didn't get it. I was running around taking care of Sarah and housework from morning to night, while he only focused on his job. Even after I returned to work, nothing changed. He remained indifferent to childcare and spent his time as he pleased. During those times, Cassidy occasionally helped out. She really adored Sarah without making any complaints to me. I was saved by her presence. As the years went by, we somehow reached our 20th wedding anniversary. Sarah was 18 years old and living in a university dorm. I was thinking that I would have more time for myself even though I was still juggling work and the chores daily. However, I received a call saying that Cassidy had fallen down at home and broken a bone. When Tony and I went to the hospital, she looked devastated. Well, I'm getting old. I could leave the hospital soon, but I would need care for my daily life.
Don't worry about it. Martha is going to help you.
To my surprise, Tony told her as if it was no big deal. I had a full-time job. I thought I finally could start thinking about my own life. Sensing my inner turmoil, Cassidy spoke up. But she works full-time and is already busy. I can't burden her. Tony looked at me and asked if I could manage with a hint of pressure. I couldn't say no, so I had to say, leave it to me. That was how I ended up juggling all the household chores, working, and taking care of my mother-in-law. Tony left the caregiving entirely to me and didn't even ask about her condition. I couldn't help but think he was cold-hearted. But for Cassidy's sake, I continued to do my best every day. Around that time, he began working late and spending a lot of time away from home. Despite claiming overtime, he often came home late at night drunk. I ended up eating dinner alone more frequently, feeling lonely. 3 months after I started caring for Cassidy, our 20th wedding anniversary approached. I had arranged for us to go out for dinner to celebrate. In the midst of the daily grind of work, housework, and caregiving, it was the one thing I looked forward to. Honey, don't forget, we have a dinner reservation for our wedding anniversary tonight. Let's meet in front of the restaurant, okay? I reminded Tony, handing a briefcase to him as he was leaving for work.
I know. See you later.
I watched him walk out of the door, and then I headed to work as well. After finishing my shift, I waited in front of the restaurant at the agreed-upon time of 6 p.m., but he didn't show up. I got anxious and tried calling him multiple times, but he didn't answer. Finally, on the 8th call, he picked up. It sounded pretty noisy where he was.
Why are you calling me over and over?
It's our anniversary dinner, remember? It's almost time. He made a dismissive snigger and responded.
Never mind the anniversary. Seriously, it's pointless celebrating that now.
What the?
Only you care about that stuff. Go ahead and celebrate on your own. Just so you know, I'm not coming home tonight.
Wait, hold on. He hung up without listening to my pleas. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to eat alone, so I canceled the reservation and left the restaurant disappointed. I told Sarah what happened when she called. She got angry on my behalf and called him a jerk, which made me feel a bit better. Afterward, I went to check on Cassidy. She noticed the air of gloom surrounding me and asked what happened. I ended up telling her about how Tony had canceled our anniversary dinner. Her face became quite serious, and I immediately regretted telling her. As I grew anxious, she spoke in a solemn tone. Listen, Martha, I must tell you something. And then, she stunned me with her unexpected revelation. 3 months had passed since then. When I returned home from stopping by Cassidy's after work, my house was pitch dark. As soon as I turned on the lights, I saw something on the table that left me speechless. They were divorce papers left by Tony. I immediately reached out to him. Honey, where are you? What are these papers? He didn't hide his annoyance and replied,
I'm moving out of the house. Just sign those, okay?
What? This is too sudden. At least tell me why.
I will tell you then. My girlfriend is pregnant. You are no longer needed.
Girlfriend? Pregnant? are you talking about?
I won't pay a cent of alimony. There is no proof of my infidelity anyway.
I was burning with rage at that moment. I dedicated myself entirely to him, managing the household, caring for our child, and tending to his mom for 2 decades. Yet, he wanted to end it with a single phone call for such a selfish reason. I thought, you just wait and see. I immediately suppressed my anger. Oh, I see. Fine. Let's get a divorce.
Oh, really?
He sounded surprised by my reaction. Maybe he thought I would get angrier or beg. I calmly asked him, So, what are your plans for your mother's caregiving if we divorce?
Caregiving? I'm sure I will figure out something. If you're so concerned about it, go ahead and you can continue. Anyway, I gotta go now. It feels so good to know that I don't have to see your face anymore.
With that, the call ended. I couldn't help but smile as I held my phone. Afterward, I gave Sarah a rundown of what was happening. Finally, you're better off without him. Let me know if you need my help. Once again, I was left dumbfounded at how little he was regarded by his own daughter. About a month later, I received a call during my lunch break. It was from Tony, so I ignored it, but the phone didn't stop ringing. He was bombarding me with incessant calls. It was becoming quite annoying, so I reluctantly picked it up. Yeah?
At last! What the heck do you think you're doing by sending me that?
Oh, you got it, huh? I replied to his anger nonchalantly. He continued shouting nonsense, which I cut it off by saying, Come to your mom's place tonight at 7 p.m. We'll talk there. Then I hung up the phone. That night, I waited for him with Cassidy at her house until he arrived, looking all pissed off.
God darn you! What do you think you're doing?
What do you mean?
I mean this. You're coming after me for alimony.
He handed me the documents sent through a lawyer. I calmly told him, Well, we are getting a divorce because of your affair, so asking for alimony is only fair, right?
Where's the proof of my affair then?
Your girlfriend is with your child, right? You said so yourself. He fell silent. I wondered how reckless he could be without realizing it himself.
But there should be no concrete proof of the affair. If I just play dumb, I won't need to pay alimony.
I threw several photos at him while he stammered out excuses. They were of him walking arm in arm with a young woman and entering a hotel.
What the heck? Were you having me followed?
Obviously. Did you have fun meeting your girlfriend behind my back?
I thought you had no idea.
Then, Cassidy spoke up. I told her to look into your activities. I saw you walking with that woman when I was coming back from the hospital.
What, you?
That night, when our anniversary dinner was cancelled, she shamefully revealed about witnessing his affair. She urged me to act fast and even offered to cover the investigation fee if needed. With her assistance, I had the evidence collected. He brought up the divorce after that. So when he did, I already knew about his affair. I spoke matter-of-factly to Tony, who looked at me and Cassidy alternately. So we are getting a divorce. I will claim $30,000 for alimony and property division.
Wait a minute. Please spare me from alimony. I have a new life waiting for me, you know. I'm going to have a child with her.
The confidence and bravado from earlier disappeared, and he pleaded meekly. I looked down at him with a cold gaze. No, I will not spare you. If you refuse to pay, We'll go to court or whatever it takes." Hearing that, he suddenly became defiant.
Fine. I will pay alimony or whatever. Anyway, I will inherit my mom's estate soon. Her family is rich, and I'm her only son. I'm going to get a substantial inheritance, you know.
He sneered with a malicious expression. At that moment, Cassidy, looking exasperated, said, "You couldn't have cared less about me, and you betrayed Martha, who devoted herself to raising Sarah and caring for me. Do you really think you're getting an inheritance?" "I intend to give my assets to her and Sarah before I pass away. I've already changed the beneficiary for my life insurance to her. Don't expect to get anything from me." No way!" He pleaded with her to reconsider over and over, but she was adamant. Frustrated, he glared at me. "You manipulated my mom. Remember this." Then, I decided to drop another bomb on him. "Oh, by the way, should I tell you something interesting?" "What?" He looked bewildered, and I handed him a manila folder. As he looked at the contents, his face turned paler and paler. What the heck is this?" "As you can see, it's evidence of your girlfriend Jessica meeting her real boyfriend. The pictures inside showed her hanging out with a young, handsome guy, kissing and doing what happy young couples do. Jessica, who had been working at a bar, seems to be deeply involved with one of the regulars." Tony trembled as he looked at the photos. "This can't be true. She's pregnant with my child." Despite that, she was drinking heavily at the bar and was puffing away on cigarettes too. "What?" "Well, this is what I found during my investigation. But she hadn't been to the obstetrician either. I doubt she's even pregnant." "But she was asking me for money for maternity checkups and baby clothes." I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Seriously, do you really think a woman this young and beautiful would marry a middle-aged average Joe like you? Haven't you figured it out yet? She was just using you for money." "I'm ashamed of my son." Then he started to tremble and attempted to make a call somewhere. But the announcement on the other end said, "The call cannot be completed as dialed." "Why? What's going on?" I laughed at his clueless face. "She has probably blocked you. Looks like you've been dumped." No, it can't be." He collapsed to his knees, devastated. Then he suddenly clung to me. "Martha, I've been the biggest fool. I was deceived. The only person I truly love is you. Let's start over. Let's go back to being a happy family with Sarah and Mom." He tried to grab my hand, and I forcefully pushed him away. "Don't touch me. You left me like that after I spent 20 years dedicating to you. I will never forgive you. Pay up and get lost, you scumbag." Then I kicked him out of the house while he bawled his eyes out in such a shameful way. Later on, we finalized our divorce. I was able to claim alimony from him and received a substantial portion in the property division. Sarah and Cassidy blocked his calls and stopped talking to him as well. Due to his financial contribution to his girlfriend, he had almost depleted his savings. He had to borrow money to pay alimony. At work, he used to brag about marrying a younger woman and having a child. It now became a running joke after his colleagues found out that he was dumped, and her pregnancy turned out to be a lie. He has been referred to as a pathetic old man who was fooled by a younger girl and abandoned by his wife since then. He lost his family, savings, and accumulated debts, forcing him to live in a rundown apartment. He's taken an extra job, working night shifts at the construction site to repay his debt. Even with this knowledge, I feel no sympathy for him. Instead, I think he got what he deserved. On the other hand, I sold the house and now live comfortably in a new apartment. Soon, I plan to take Sarah and Cassidy on vacation, using the alimony we won. Cassidy's health is improving, and she has been expressing her gratitude to me. From now on, I will cherish what's left and move forward with a bright outlook on life.
You're truly ugly. I don't want to see your face anymore.
After devoting myself for 20 years, my Kirk suddenly said such a thing to me. I remained frozen, and he continued.
I felt nauseous just looking at your ugly face. Leave me alone. Get out of this house.
With a twisted expression, my Kirk delivered these words. At that moment, I reached my breaking point. I can't endure this kind of treatment any longer, and I absolutely won't forgive you. Despite feeling intense anger, I contained it and calmly replied, Fine, I've had enough. I'll disappear from your life as you wish. In response, Kirk replied with excitement.
It's great that you're so understanding. Hurry up and leave, you ugly one.
However, after that, he would come to me in tears. My name is Sarah Tanner, a 46-year-old working housewife and a company employee. My husband's name is Kirk Tanner. We met at work. One day, Kirk transferred to my workplace. I found myself in a position where I had to guide him, despite him being 2 years younger. Kirk was often called cute by the female employees at our workplace. He had expressive eyes, a docile personality, and was skilled at being affectionate. I, too, gradually developed feelings for him. During that time, Kirk asked me out.
I admire how dependable you are, Sarah. Please, go out with me.
Moved by such a sincere confession, my heart was touched, and we began dating. After 2 years, he proposed to me. I accepted it, and we were full of happiness. Subsequently, we rented an apartment and started our newlywed life together. However, as we began living together, I soon realized that he was completely incapable of doing household chores. Clothes were left lying around, trash was not thrown into the trash bin, and he wouldn't even bother to put away the dishes after eating. I made an effort to teach him the basics of housework. At first, he complied with my instructions, but gradually, he started making displeased faces when I pointed out his mistakes. Kirk, your clothes are left lying around. At least put them in the laundry basket.
You're so annoying. If you noticed, you could have done it, Sarah.
For the first time, I was surprised to see him rebel against me. Why can't you take care of your own things? In the end, it's you who will be inconvenienced.
Why would I be inconvenienced? We're married, so it's the woman's job. That's you, Sarah, to take care of the house.
That's rubbish. I work too, and I've been taking on extra shifts recently. At that time, I had just been promoted to a team leader at my company, becoming the fastest to advance among my peers. In response to my words, Kirk glared at me.
What's with you acting all high and mighty just because you got promoted ahead of your husband? Are you getting cocky?
That's not it. Besides, I'm older than you, so it's natural, right? What I want is for you to help with the housework.
You're so annoying. I don't want to hear it.
With these words, Kirk stormed out of the house. In such moments, he always ended up at the poker tables. I was left behind with no other option but to sigh. Sometime later, I became pregnant. While Kirk was happy about it, he still didn't help with the housework. In fact, he became even more moody when I couldn't keep up with the chores.
Hey, is it pre-made food again today?
I had no choice, you know. I was bedridden with a terrible backache.
You're a useless wife.
If you're going to say that, why don't you do it yourself? In fact, I wish you'd be more considerate of me. Though I thought this inside, I apologized, saying, taking care of a husband is a wife's duty. I also assumed as such. Even after our daughter Mika was born, Kirk remained the same. Mika would call out, "It's Daddy!" and Kirk would cheerfully pick her up when she was in a good mood. However, when it came to changing diapers or making milk, he would run away. I told him many times, let's take care of parenting together, but he didn't seem to understand. I was engrossed in parenting from morning till night, while Kirk spent his days working and playing poker. This continued, and when Mika turned 1, Kirk suddenly dropped a bombshell during dinner.
Hey, I quit my job today.
What? You quit? Why?
My boss was getting on my nerves, always nagging at me. We didn't get along, and he told me to quit on the spot, so I wrote my resignation letter right there.
But Mika is still so young. What are we going to do now?
You'll be returning to work soon, won't you? Just take care of things for a while.
I was on maternity leave at that time, and I didn't fully understand the situation inside the car. When I contacted a friend of mine who is in the same department as me at the company I work for, my friend told me this. I hate to say it, but Kirk didn't have a very good reputation. He wasn't serious about work, and he got scolded this time for going to play poker during working hours. Really? Is that true? It is. Sarah, you are diligent and valued at the company, but I'm sorry, but Kirk is no longer there and everyone seems relieved. I hung up the phone and put my head in my hands. I couldn't believe that Kirk had such a bad reputation. Unable to say, please go back to the company and apologize, I had no choice but to accept his abrupt resignation. Afterward, I quickly returned to work. Some colleagues gossiped about me, saying, "Look, that's Sarah, the wife of that guy." But I worked diligently without letting it bother me. When I made a small mistake, my boss would scold me harshly, saying, "Can't the two of you as a married couple even do your jobs?" It was tough. During that time, Kirk, on the other hand, didn't actively search for a proper job, and instead occasionally took on part-time work, only to quickly grow bored and quit, becoming unemployed again. Time passed, and Mika was 3 years old. A friend mentioned starting her own company and approached me. She said, "Our company offers better benefits than your current workplace. Why don't you come and work with us?" Having faced difficulties at my current workplace, I was thrilled by the offer and accepted it, leading to a job change. To my surprise, my friend also introduced Kirk to a job at a subsidiary company. He too was delighted by the favorable conditions and finally returned to work as a full-time employee. Subsequently, we decided to leave our modest home and purchase a new one. Since Kirk didn't want to pay the mortgage, the house was registered in my name. I was taking care of work, household chores, child rearing, and looking after my husband, spending each day quite busy. Such days continued, and before we knew it, we had been married for 20 years. Our daughter Mika had turned 19 and was attending university. I was still working at my friend's company and had become a department head, earning more than my peers. Kirk, too, continued working at the subsidiary company. He still didn't do household chores, but compared to the time when he was unemployed, I couldn't help feeling grateful that he was working. I continued to take care of Kirk, cooking meals every day and looking after his needs. Then, one day, Mika said something like this to me. "You're spoiling Dad too much. He can't do anything without you, Mom." I replied to Mika, "That's how married couples are." However, it was perhaps a little while after celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary. Kirk would say,
I'm busy with work.
and return home late. Even on weekends, he would say,
I have work,
and go out. I wondered if Kirk, who was just an ordinary company employee, could be so busy. I couldn't help but have doubts, even though I was busy with work and household chores. Then, on my birthday, which came a while after that, I received a message from Mika, who was living on her own, saying, "Happy birthday, Mom." But Kirk, even though he saw me in the morning, didn't say anything. He didn't give me a present, though he used to remember my birthday every year and say, "Happy birthday." This year, it seemed like Kirk had forgotten my birthday. It might seem like a small thing, but it hurt me. When Kirk came home late that night, I told him, "Hey, Kirk, do you know what day it is today?"
Huh? What's this all of a sudden? I don't think I had any plans, did I?
He had truly forgotten my birthday. Despite the shock, I softly muttered, "Today is my birthday." But when Kirk heard that, his expression turned pale.
Why are you making a fuss over something so trivial?
Trivial?
Yeah. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Is that enough?
Saying that, he tried to slip past me and head to the bathroom. At that moment, I smelled a fragrance of woman's perfume that I didn't recognize. What's this scent? Could it be that the reason for Kirk coming home late recently is? It was the first time I began to doubt my husband. I couldn't help it, so I casually asked an acquaintance at his workplace about my husband. He immediately had an evasive expression and hesitated in his response. Seeing his reaction, I decided to go ahead and request a thorough investigation on Kirk from a professional agency. The results were crystal clear. Surprisingly, Kirk was having an affair with a coworker who was 10 years younger. I was in shock and felt dizzy as I stared at the investigation results. Just then, Kirk returned home.
I'm back. Is dinner ready?
I stared at Kirk as he said this with an air of superiority. I just have something to discuss.
Huh? There's nothing to talk about between us.
While loosening his tie, Kirk said these words arrogantly. "Don't you have something you need to tell me?" In a lowered voice, I spoke, and Kirk responded with irritation.
I told you. There's nothing. What's with that expression?
As I remained silent, he finally blurted out,
You're still ugly. I don't even want to look at your face anymore.
"What?"
I feel sick looking at your ugly face. Just leave me alone. Get out of this house.
Kirk said these words with a contorted face. At that moment, I reached my breaking point. After 20 years of dedication as a wife, he called me ugly and told me to leave? I couldn't endure it any longer. I would never forgive him. Despite the intense anger I felt, I kept it in check and calmly told him, "That's enough. Just as you wish, I'll disappear from your life." Then Kirk's voice cracked up.
You're such an obedient woman. Leave quickly, ugly.
Kirk said that and swiftly went to take a bath. The next day, after confirming my husband had gone to work, I took action. I had already booked a moving company and they began moving everything out of the house. The new place I was moving to was a company apartment that had become available. I also contacted Mika and she helped me with the moving. "Mom, you finally made up your mind. It's about time." I could only respond with a wry smile to Mika's words. After leaving the house, which I had emptied, I placed the neatly prepared divorce papers in the living room and left the home where we had lived for many years. Late at night on that day, I received a call from Kirk. He kept calling multiple times, one call after another, almost like a maniac. "Hello?"
Finally answered. What do you think you're doing, just leaving on your own like that?
He berated me with a voice so loud that I thought my phone would break. "Well, you don't want to see an ugly face like mine, right? So, I left as you wished."
What? What the hell are you talking about?
Tomorrow at 5 p.m., meet me at the cafe in front of the station and let's talk there. I said that and turned off my phone to get some sleep. The next day, waiting at the cafe, Kirk appeared with a flushed face.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
What do you mean?
I mean everything. Why are you taking away all the furniture and appliances? How am I supposed to live?
Kirk aggressively confronted me, and I calmly responded. I paid for most of the furniture and appliances. What's wrong with taking them? Besides, you wouldn't do any housework, even if we had appliances, would you? You just waste them. I paid for most of the furniture and appliances myself. When I pointed that out, he became even more obstinate.
Even if that's the case, there are right and wrong ways to do things. And what's with leaving the divorce papers behind? Do you want to divorce me?
Yes, that's right.
What?
I want to divorce you. Will you sign? What? You didn't expect me to initiate the divorce?
Well, we've been married for 20 years.
That's right. I've dedicated myself to you for those 20 years. But being called ugly in all of this, I can't forgive all of this.
All of this?
I spread the investigation results from the private investigator on the table. The video showed Kirk walking arm in arm with another woman, entering a hotel together, and various other things.
What the hell is this? Did you investigate me?
Yes, I had you investigated. It seems like you started this affair this year. And did you enjoy betraying me and meeting her?
Ugh.
With Kirk struggling for words, I said calmly, "So we are getting a divorce. I'll request $300,000 for the affair, compensation, and asset division. The house is in my name, so I'm going to sell it. Please leave soon."
Wait a minute. A fair compensation? Selling the house? Please don't do that to me.
The man who just moments ago was concerned with another woman now had a pale face. I looked down at him with cold eyes. Also, I reported the in-car affair to your workplace. You'll be dismissed soon, by the way. It seems you had a pretty bad reputation even at your current job.
Huh? Dismissed?
Yes, you'll be unemployed again. Do your best with your affair partner.
No, it's not like that. She was just a fling. I never thought of divorcing you. I only love you. Please, let me keep working at your company.
Kirk begged with an expression that seemed on the verge of tears. I ignored him and said, with a cold look, "Oh, by the way, Mika said, don't ever contact me again."
Huh? Why?
She doesn't want to consider you her father anymore after you caused so much distress to her mother by not helping with parenting. Kirk then frantically started messing with his phone.
I tried to contact Mika. She's not answering. No, this can't be. I'm still her father.
I contained my laughter and said, "Well, now you've got what you wanted. To be on your own. You must be thrilled, right?"
Sarah, please listen.
"Well, it's time for this ugly lady to say goodbye. I'm sure you don't want to see this ugly face anymore."
Sarah.
Ignoring Kirk's plea from behind me, I left the scene. Our divorce was finalized later on. I claimed $300,000 for emotional distress and received a fair share of our assets. Kirk did indeed get fired from his job shortly afterward. According to stories I heard from his coworkers, the higher-ups in the subsidiary company had reservations about letting him go due to my connections with the management. He had a bad work attitude, and his affair was well known within the company. It's not an excuse, but I feel sorry for what I unknowingly caused. Kirk's lover faced a similar fate, losing her job as it became awkward to work in the same place, and she eventually resigned. Kirk returned to the countryside, and our relationship was over. I was able to force him to move out of the house, and we sold it. Kirk tried to get back together with me multiple times, but when I asked him, "Do you really want to start over with this ugly woman?" he fell silent and eventually stopped contacting me. Now he lives in a cheap apartment and makes a living from day labor. Even knowing that, I don't feel any sympathy for him. If anything, I think he got what he deserved. As for me, I left the company-owned housing and bought a one-bedroom apartment to live comfortably on my own. With a divorce compensation, I plan to go on a trip with my daughter Mika soon. In the future, I intend to cherish what I have left and make the most of it while enjoying my travels. At my best friend's wedding, I bumped into my ex-husband, who had dumped me because we couldn't have kids. Normally, I just deal with it maturely, but he was drunk and did something unthinkable.
You've really packed on the pounds, huh?
He actually doused me with water. It's always been a problem, but to pull such a horrible stunt in public? As people around us gawked, my best friend came over. "Lonnie, are you okay? My ex was stunned by her words. I'm Tiana, a 32-year-old married nurse. My job is demanding, but rewarding when patients thank me. Although I'm married now, I was previously married once, which makes me a divorcee. That first marriage is a painful chapter I'd rather forget. I was bad at judging men back then and even developed a mistrust for them. But let me start from the beginning of this dark chapter. I was 24 when I had an arranged meeting set up by my parents. Nursing is demanding. Managing medical supplies, patient communication, care plans, emergency drills. You can't slack off when lives are at stake. I chose this path, so no regrets. But it was exhausting. On my days off, I'd rather rest than go out, so I rarely met guys. I was okay with it, but my parents worried about me being single. So I gave the arranged meeting a try. That's where I met Lonnie, my ex-husband. He was outgoing and chatty, which helped ease my nerves at our first meeting.
What do you enjoy doing, Tiana? I'm really into riding my motorcycle lately.
I told him. I'm into reading. I love to relax at home with a book and tea. I'm hooked on mystery novels right now, collecting a whole series. Kind of spending a lot on them, though.
I totally get it. When you're into a hobby, spending just happens.
He was fun, and a good talker. For some reason, he seemed to take a liking to me, and after he pursued me, we dated and married a year later. I had no idea then how much I'd regret marrying Lonnie. The first year seemed okay. We both worked and shared household chores. But then, he started revealing his true colors. 2 years in, we tried for a baby. He really wanted kids.
I bet our kids would be adorable. Boy or girl, I just want a bunch. Let's raise them together.
I wanted his child too, so I agreed. But after 3 years, no baby. He started getting impatient and blamed me for our childlessness. I even got tested for infertility once. The results showed nothing wrong with me. Infertility isn't just about illness. Lifestyle, stress, timing, they all matter. Maybe my demanding job and night shifts played a part. He insisted it was all on me. But I don't think it's right to just blame me for everything. It's just that there's a higher chance of me being the cause. It's not like I have been told I can never have kids. I asked him to join me for infertility treatment, but he outright refused.
There's no way I'm the problem. It has to be your infertility. You're the reason we don't have kids. This is terrible.
This made him bossy, blaming me for being infertile. So Lonnie started strutting around, blaming me, his infertile wife, for everything and doing whatever he pleased. He was a classic male chauvinist, gradually dumping all the household chores on me, while he just goofed off at home. No matter how much I asked for help, he wouldn't lift a finger. If I were a stay-at-home wife, maybe it would have been a big deal. But both of us working, and me alone doing all the chores? No way. Especially as a nurse with lots of night shifts. It was natural for the quality of housework to drop. But he would complain about every little thing.
Hey, the laundry was wrinkled. Fold it more carefully. And dinner tonight tasted bland. Are you slacking off? Make it better.
I was so fed up with his selfish remarks. I'm exhausted from work too, you know. Doing household perfectly is impossible. If you don't like how I do it, why don't you do it yourself?
Housework is a wife's job. Just shut up and listen to your husband. You should be grateful I haven't divorced a useless woman who can't even have kids.
He kept blaming me for being infertile and started to skimp on the household expenses, saying he didn't want to waste money on an infertile wife. He only contributed $335 to our monthly expenses, keeping the rest for himself. I had to dip into my salary and savings to cover the rest. Divorce crossed my mind, but it was tough to decide. My parents were so happy when I got married, I didn't want to let them down. I tried fixing things with Lonnie, but it didn't work. He despised me for being infertile, and I had grown suspicious of him. Trust was gone, and there was no way we could reconcile. His behavior worsened, and he started womanizing. He'd stay out drinking late and go out on weekends. He often came home late, reeking a woman's sweet perfume. He claimed it was for business entertainment, but I doubted it. In 2 years, I found out about 3 affairs. 2 were with bar women, and 1 was a college student who had been deceived into thinking he was single and was seriously into him. When they found out he was married, it turned into a huge mess. I'd rather not remember that drama. Naturally, my love for him faded fast. Then, when I was 30, a decisive event happened. He hurled cruel words at me.
I'm sick of an infertile hag. I'm going to marry a young girl who can have my kids.
That's how he discarded me like trash. I got some alimony based on evidence of his affairs, but it wasn't much. The woman deceived by Lonnie was one thing, but the other 2 disappeared, so I couldn't claim alimony from them. I told my parents we split due to incompatibility. It was hard seeing them upset. Post-divorce, I was down for a while. No regrets about leaving him, since I no longer loved him, but I mourned the wasted 5 years. I should have left him sooner. Why didn't I see it earlier? I was indecisive and foolish. But Glenn, my current husband, helped me through it. He'd been a friend since college, popular, caring, and kind. We'd always been close, and he'd listened to many of my troubles. He supported me through my hardest times, even after marriage. I vented to him about work, being blamed for infertility, and Lonnie's cheating. Of course, I told him first about the divorce, and he said this to me.
Sounds like he was a real jerk. I think you made the right choice, divorcing him. You've had it tough.
Absolutely. I wasted so much time. I'm so disappointed in myself for not seeing through him. I think I'll stay away from marriage for a while.
Actually, there's something I've been wanting to say. Would you consider dating me with the intention of getting married?
I was shocked by his shy confession. According to him, he'd had feelings for me since college. But he was focused on his startup and worried about failing, so he never confessed. By the time I got married, he thought he should give up, but he couldn't. Years later, when he heard my marriage was in trouble, he decided to confess if I ever got divorced. I initially turned down his confession since I'd just divorced, but he patiently and persistently showed his feelings. Gradually, I was drawn to his kindness and eventually accepted Glenn. I had told him up front that I might be infertile, but he wasn't bothered at all.
I'm not marrying you just to have kids. Let's give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, we'll just live our lives as a couple.
His words cleared the fog in my heart. Even after getting married, he treated me well, and we were living happily. So I never expected to encounter my ex-husband, Lonnie, again. One day, I received a wedding invitation from Stacy, a friend from college. Glenn was invited too, so we attended as a couple. I wore a light blue dress that he helped me pick out for the occasion. The wedding was in November, and though it was cold outside, the room was nicely warmed. There, I was shocked to see Lonnie sitting among the guests on the groom's side. Apparently, he was a co-worker of the groom. I was in high spirits for my friend's wedding, but seeing Lonnie was a downer. Time had passed since our divorce, so I was so over him. I tried to act mature and not let him bother me. The reception went smoothly, and it was almost time for the cake cutting. Glenn went to the bathroom, and I was enjoying the delicious food when suddenly a familiar voice from behind shattered the moment.
You've really packed on the pounds, huh? Isn't it hot for a fatty like you to be in here with all this heating? Let me cool you down.
Before I could grasp the meaning of his words, he had doused me with water. Water stains spread across my light blue dress. When I turned around, there was Lonnie, holding the cup that must have contained the water, grinning like a fool. His face was slightly red, probably from drinking. The crowd fell silent, and voices of condemnation rose towards Lonnie. I was more astonished than angry. I always knew he was senseless, but doing such a stupid thing in front of everyone? You're the worst. I was trying to ignore you, and you pulled this? Aren't you embarrassed to be such an idiot as an adult? He just laughed mockingly, ignoring my icy tone.
Look who's talking. An infertile pig. But you've been living a miserable life since I dumped you. That pretty dress doesn't suit you. It's just pathetic.
Guests were staring at him with disgusted expressions, yet he shamelessly continued mocking me. Then my best friend, Stacy, hearing the commotion, rushed over. Seeing me drenched, she turned pale. Are you okay? You're drenched. I'll get you a towel and some clothes to change into. Just wait. Don't worry about it. It'll air dry. No, waiting for it to air dry will just make you cold. Being cold is the last thing pregnant women need, you know? Lonnie, hearing this, let out a dumbfounded, huh? He had been mocking me for being infertile, but now, hearing I was pregnant, his reaction was expected. I smiled at the stunned Lonnie. I didn't gain weight. I'm pregnant. Just so you know, I got pregnant soon after remarrying my current husband. Turns out the infertility issue was yours. His face turned ashen at my words, but his misfortune didn't end there. My husband Glenn, returning from the restroom, rushed to me, glaring at Lonnie and shouted,
What did you do to my wife?
Then Lonnie, seeing Glenn's face, exclaimed in shock,
Oh my gosh, why are you here?
Turns out Lonnie's company's major client was Glenn's company. If Glenn cut ties, Lonnie's company would face a crisis. Knowing that Glenn was my husband, Lonnie turned pale. Then Lonnie's boss and even the company president came rushing over to apologize to me.
I'm terribly sorry for our employee's inexcusable behavior.
Meanwhile, my husband angrily declared the deal was off. Hearing this, Lonnie started to desperately apologize.
I'm so sorry. Please, not the deal.
Glenn responded to his apology.
You're apologizing to the wrong person.
Then Lonnie, realizing his mistake, turned to me and apologized.
I'm extremely sorry for what happened. Please, forgive me.
I looked at him with cold eyes. Seeing him in this pathetic state didn't give me any satisfaction. Just having him in my sight was unpleasant. To avoid further annoyance, I decided to leave. Your apology is unnecessary. You're just sorry to save face, right? I have no intention of forgiving you.
Please, don't say that. I'll do whatever I can to make it up to you.
Enough. Your apologies are worthless to me. How pathetic for an adult to act so childishly. Just seeing your face makes me feel awful. Don't come near me ever again. Ignoring his repeated apologies, I left the venue with Glenn. I felt bad for Stacy, but I couldn't stand to stay there. Later, I called to apologize, but she wasn't angry and actually apologized for my discomfort. A few days later, Glenn told me what happened to Lonnie. After discussion, it was decided that his company wasn't at fault, so the business deal continued. Instead, he was transferred to a regional branch, a place where problematic or incompetent employees were sent. Being sent there, known as exile in the company, meant no chance for advancement. As for me, as long as Lonnie stayed out of my sight, it was fine. My pregnancy was going well, with only a month left until the baby's birth. Glenn always spoke to my belly, excited for our child's arrival. Being loved by my husband and blessed with a child, I felt truly happy. I wanted to cherish this life moving forward.